deputies who were killed earlier today, Marlon?
That call came in about 7:30 this morning at the Regional Training Center in East Los Angeles, and we've watched the procession take place, and now this is quite the sight, Sheriff Villanueva, with the doubled rows of deputies who have lined up. To your point, it's not going to be the vans that bring the, as we're magnifying the scene there from our Skyfox shot, it's not the vans that will bring the bodies up, but they will be rolled up, each one of them, not one, not two, but 3 bodies that were lost today. That is going to be, unfortunately, a sad and unique sight that we don't want to see, but is going to unfold, and it's a grim reminder.
As a member of law enforcement, can you talk about, and I'm sure this is something you participated in well before you were the sheriff, what it feels like to be a part of this, to be able to salute your colleagues in one of these moments, and what that feels like even as a rank and file person?
Well, the department is large enough where you may not know someone from your own department because it's that big, but because we all wear the same uniform and we all go through the same experiences, the same academy, we can identify with every single member of the department. So it comes, it hits home real close.
Can you talk about the size of the department, how big it is, and especially compared to other departments around the country?
Well, fully staffed, it's supposed to have 10,000 sworn, which would rank it at the 3rd largest agency in the nation. And I think we're just slightly right around similar to LAPD. And it's considering the size of LA County and the spread of LA County, it's a very unique organization because of the complexity of it and the challenges both in geography and the density of the population, and then you're in the open wildlands of the desert or the mountains or the island Catalina. So it's very, it's a complex organization, but rich in history, as we said, from 1850. Yeah. And we were the first form of government, and to this day we're still the only form of government that shows up at 2 in the morning.
Who's bigger than the Sheriff's Department in LA County?
Chicago PD is about 12,000 sworn, and NYPD has about 35,000 sworn. Wow. But they're on a very tiny footprint in comparison to the Sheriff's Department, so it's just very different.
You know, when the call came out, and this is a point we brought up earlier, but I want to get your thoughts on this, it was, oh my goodness, was this something nefarious? And I'm sure that thought went through your head at some point, but thank goodness it doesn't seem to be the case. It just seems to be a tragic accident.
The detonation itself, yes, but the actual existence of it, it is a crime. And it has to be treated as that.
Meaning it wasn't a training exercise, right? This was something that they pulled, that was a real thing.
It was a real thing. It could be used as a training exercise in terms of how do we dispose of this real thing, and something went wrong, but there is an actual crime involved here.
And for viewers who may just have tuned in right now, I think it's important to point out that this investigation will go to whomever this belonged to. That person could face murder charges.
Yes, that person or persons, definitely.
That adds a whole new layer to this investigation.
So we continue to wait for these bodies, and when we have that moment where they come out, we will pause and bring that to you live. As an example that this brings everybody together, we're going to go from Alex Villanueva to Catherine Barger, who is the LA County Supervisor, who is out there today, the chair of the LA County Board of Supervisors. I know you even knew one of the people involved. What are your thoughts tonight?
And Christina Gonzalez, her reporting today, she was referring to these deputies that they provided security detail for you and the board. Can you confirm that?
We saw you earlier today giving a hug to the Sheriff Luna, to Chief McDonnell, and to other folks that were out there. Can you describe what it was like there, and what it was like, what we didn't see on camera, what those conversations were like?
The largest loss of life in the department since 1857, as our live pictures are now seen sort of inside below the trees here, and the van doors opening up. You can see one of the bodies with the draped flag, American flag over that body. We understand that they will be pushed up the hill to the coroner's office, to the medical examiner. Can you talk about just the scope of this, as we're seeing the double rows of deputies standing at attention?
As the chair of the Board of Supervisors that oversees the Sheriff's Department, what's your main message to the people of Los Angeles and the people of the Sheriff's Department tonight? What can you tell us about what happened this morning? Well, we know that in the past, sometimes you and Sheriff Villanueva have not always gotten along on everything, but I think the fact that we have a message tonight that both of you can agree on, which is the fact that attacks on law enforcement should stop, that law enforcement needs more funding, and that this is a night that the entire county is coming together to mourn. And the fact that we're seeing that consensus, I think, is something that almost everybody can get behind. Thank you, Supervisor, for sharing your perspective. We want to bring into the conversation real quickly, if you can stay with us as we wait this big moment, we'd appreciate that. We want to bring into the conversation Laura Diaz, who is in Santa Monica and has been doing some exclusive reporting along with our photographer Sam Dubin all day long in terms of what we know about what started all of this. Laura is with us now from Santa Monica. Laura.
Dubin, our photographer, the only one here to get those exclusive pictures as investigators went in. And we've been hearing now from the former sheriff and, of course, Supervisor Barger saying there is a direct connection between the Santa Monica location and the horrible tragedy that occurred earlier this morning. So what we were able to glean from people we talked to was that it was yesterday when people who live in the apartment building were told that investigators were going to be called to the scene, and that was because there was a construction crew on the scene here. They had gone into the underground parking unit where they were working on putting in some EV chargers when they came upon a locked enclosure there, some kind of a closet or a storage unit, if you will. And when they opened it, they discovered what they thought were grenades. They became very scared, as anyone would. They called officials, and that's when the sheriff's investigators from the bomb squad arrived on the scene, and they began looking at the contents. So apparently, according to what we heard from people who live in the apartment building, they were only here about an hour, is what one neighbor told me, and then they were given the all clear. So people who live in that apartment building spent the night there. And so the contents was taken and moved to another location, presumably where this horrible tragedy occurred this morning. And so people were not aware that those grenades, if you will, those explosives, I can't confirm that they were grenades, although Fox 11 did obtain some exclusive pictures of what was taken, but I'm certainly not a bomb expert. I don't want to offer conjecture on what they might have been, but hopefully we're able to put up that picture at some point and show you what was seized from this location, according to our exclusive information from a sheriff's deputy who remains unnamed, of what was there. So that happened, and then this morning, what would have been considered routine, if you will, by these experts. These are the most highly trained experts. The bomb detail, they train day in and day out. You have to be hand selected for these specialty teams. Only those who are the very best, the high performers, the overachievers, if you will, are asked to be on those details. And we all know what happened after that, that horrible explosion that took the lives of 3 men who had trained time and time again and yet could not have predicted what happened this morning and ended so very tragically.
And Laura, I think we have the pictures that you're referring to that we can now show. Maybe we can bring those up, which is our look. Okay, we'll be there soon. An opportunity. Here we go. So this is the image, and Laura, maybe talk about what we're seeing here in terms of the pictures that have been obtained and what we're thinking from looking at them.
Well, again, I'm not an expert in this, but they look to be some kind of an explosive device that was taken out from this garage here, if you will, at this apartment complex. And we were told by a source within the sheriff's department that this is what the bomb detail was trying to deal with this morning. And so we can only guess that they did not think that there was the possibility that they would explode. There's a lot of protocol involved with how they dispense with things. But based on what we heard from the former sheriff, it sounded like they were in the process of transporting, correct? To decide the next move.
Yes. And in fact, the former sheriff, Alex Villanueva, is still here on set. So we want to ask his thoughts on those images. If we could leave those images up, that would be great. Did you get a look at that? And I don't know what you can glean, if anything.
I was looking at the nomenclature, M213. That sounds like military grade fuses.
Okay, well, with that said, we do have national security expert Hal Kempfert also joining our coverage. You know this well. What do you make of the images that we've obtained?
13 fuses. Those go with the M67 hand grenade. That's a standard round hand grenade that's still being used by the military forces, U.S. forces all over the world. And the grenades themselves, the material, the composition, the explosive composition in the grenade tends to be rather stable. The fuses are a little less stable, and even something like extreme heat can potentially set off a fuse. There's just a variety of things that could have gone wrong, and you know, no one knows how long they were stored there, and what condition they were in when they got there, and when they're being stored there. And of course, now they're going to be looking a lot harder, because they're going to be wondering, was this just a one-off that they happened to find these things, or could there be other security around the property? So they're going to be looking awful hard, but there was obviously more than one grenade device. Obviously, you have fuses separate from grenades, and there's a report that this was the property, or this could have come from a deceased military veteran, that this was his material that was found, or his whatever he had. Of course, I want to make it absolutely clear that you're not supposed to have any type of military ordnance, you know, if whether you're active, retired, former, you know, whatever, that obviously somehow he got this wrongfully and had it there. And it's just extremely dangerous. And by the way, I just want to say one thing. The military, we inspect, we count, we audit, we check this stuff all the time to make sure that military ordnance like this doesn't get out, you know, doesn't get into civilian society. But even with all that said, sometimes some does get out there, and this obviously is that case. And of course, explosives, extremely dangerous.
So, you know, there's so many protocols that are in place to prevent something like this, which is part of the reason there hasn't been this much loss of life in one day since 1857 in the Sheriff's Department. What do you think went wrong? How does this happen?
Alex, you know, it's really kind of I'm waiting for the investigation. You know, a couple of things we didn't know this morning that we know now. It wasn't part of a training exercise. That was one thought, because of the facility up there. And I should tell you, I've done training on that hill a lot. I've done a lot of Homeland Security training, counterterrorism training up there. I've been at that facility. I was just up there not too long ago. You know, former commander of SEB was a good friend of mine, and it's just, to me, when you look at the professionalism, the training, the experience, it had to be, to me, I'm kind of leaning towards some horrible accident, that they were moving it, and maybe they thought that the grenades were rendered safe, or maybe the fuses were in too close a proximity to the grenades, or maybe it was a bundle of fuses that went off simultaneously. There's a lot of different scenarios where that could happen. I don't know exactly what occurred, but I do know that the professionalism of that group, that team up there, is truly unsurpassed. And I just don't know what happened. I don't know, and they're very, very careful about this thing normally. But I will tell you this: you can be extremely good at this stuff. You can be highly trained, highly proficient. You can be, you know, this happens in the special operations side of the military all the time, and sometimes accidents just happen. Mistakes occur. You try to learn from them going forward and try not to repeat that in the future. But I have no idea if this was something inherent with the devices, which I'm kind of thinking it was, that just wasn't caught by those particular technicians, those deputies.
Hal, we want you to sit tight, and maybe we could bring the Skyfox picture full, because it looks like the procession is continuing from what I could tell. Yeah, there now we're seeing the flag-draped bodies. On set with us is former LA County Sheriff Alex Villanueva. We also have LA County Board of Supervisors Chair Catherine Barger with us as we look at this poignant moment.
And this is the moment that we have been waiting for, the salutes for these 3 flag-draped body bags, which were taken up this hill and are now heading into the medical examiner's office.
At the bottom of the screen there, when we just magnified that, those were the vans and the double rows of deputies standing at attention. Former Sheriff Villanueva, your thoughts?
As we thought, seeing the 3 flag-draped gurneys moving up the hill, with everyone at attention, everyone rendering a hand salute as the gurneys went by, that indeed is a somber moment, the most somber moment we've seen in over a century.
Chair Barger, your thoughts? Oh, we'll get her back online as now those flag-draped bodies are out of the picture there.
And Sheriff, you talked about this earlier for people that may just be joining us. What's the process now?
Well, now the medical examiner has taken possession of the 3 sets of remains, and they're going to do their investigation to determine manner and mode of death, and that's their side of the equation. Then you have the investigation going on at the scene of the accident where the explosion occurred, the post-blast investigation, and then you're going to have where they came from, and then determine what it was, how it got to the location where it was found, who the informants were, are there witnesses, what is the nature of it, is there some, could it be that it was a stored something that was illegally possessed but there was no ill intent behind it from someone who former military and passed down generations, which it happens. We've had up to World War I explosives.
Wow.
So this is not something unusual.
Let's bring Supervisor Catherine Barger back in to our conversation. So we just saw the flag-draped bodies make their way to the coroner's office, and now the deputies no longer standing at attention. Your thoughts as you've watched this unfold this afternoon?
You know, the whole feeling of just such grief, watching it breaks my heart, and I think of the family that's waiting to see these coffins delivered. It's heartbreaking. I just really think that we all need to take a moment to recognize that the impact this has had, not only in the department, but also throughout law enforcement and throughout the county and the country. We've received calls from all over, is a testimony to the fact that these 3 men were heroes.
Can you talk about what a challenging year this has been for LA County and the LA County Sheriff's Department, thinking about what we saw in Altadena specifically, and then what we saw in terms of the raids and all the protests, and now this moment. It seems like it's one thing after another that is really testing everybody in a way that we really haven't seen before.
Alex, we had a sheriff shot during the ICE riots up in Lancaster, which didn't get a lot of press, but this department has been pushed to the limit. And with the ICE raids going on, watching the men and women in uniform being attacked with rocks, being spit on, being treated as though they are criminals, is beyond frustrating. And then we have a deputy that was, taken to court for, quite frankly, something that I felt was an unfair charge. up in Lancaster. This department is under a microscope, but is being judged in a way that, quite frankly, I think is unfair. And I don't want to convolute that with what's taking place today, but it really is just a culmination of things that have gone on, and people need to stop and recognize that these are men and women who have families they go home to each and every night. And again, I say it, they chose this profession knowing the risk involved. I chose the profession I'm in, but the risk involved is nothing compared to what these men and women go through. And I say that because I'm tired of the fact that people think it's just they're a bunch of dishonest individuals who want to attack innocent people. Nothing could be further from the truth. I say this. There are bad accountants, there are bad lawyers, there are bad politicians, and there are bad law enforcement. But you don't condemn the entire profession. You get rid of those that are the problem. And the ones that you're seeing on the screen, the ones that are standing at attention as their three brothers are taken to the coroner's office, are a prime example of heroes that are protecting us each and every day.
And Sheriff,
yeah, your reaction to what you just heard, you agree with that?
No, I agree 100% with Catherine, and they represent the best in all of us, because few people are willing to do the job they do every day, and even fewer now are willing to sign up to do that job. And it's a challenge for all of us to elevate what it means to be a peace officer here in California and in the nation, and recognize that we need them.
Yeah, we do. And it's important to have, as you say, a civil society. You need law enforcement to keep law and order. So as we approach now 6:30, this is the time of night when we often reset with the headlines of the night, and for people that may just be tuning in, as some people do at 6:30, as we one of the few places that offer live coverage at this time, we want to sort of reset things with Alex Michelson. Marla Tejas joining us as well. We have LA County Sheriff Alex Villanueva, LA County Supervisor, Chair of the Board of Supervisors Catherine Barger, military expert Hal Kempfer, and we also have with us Christina Gonzalez, who has been out at this scene all day long and has sort of want to bring us up to date for people that may just be tuning in with what we know at this moment, sort of the key headlines of the day. Christina.
Well, I can tell you that Eastern Avenue has been reopened. So if you have to drive in this area, you can come here. But even though you have seen the procession, the bodies being moved, the area of the regional training center does remain very much a crime scene and off limits because of something that happened this morning when they started getting these 911 calls at about 7:30 in the morning. Let's show you.
Did report an explosion with 3 down.
An explosion occurred at our Special Enforcement Bureau.
All deputies responding to SCB be notified that 240 Dave is requesting that you stand down and don't approach where the explosion at this time.
Tragically, there were 3 sworn members who were fatally killed that were assigned to our arson explosives detail.
Did you know these gentlemen?
Yes. Between all 3 sworn members, they had served our community proudly for 74 years.
The best of the best, and just still kind of processing. It's been a shock to me this morning, and I'm sure it'll sink in later, but these are, like I said, we lost some of our finest deputies today.
In regards to the details of what happened, there's a lot more that we don't know than what we do know.
They know the explosion was strong enough to shatter the windows of other sheriff vehicles in the facility and was felt a quarter mile away.
It was a reverberating boom. I do sound engineering and stuff, and that was a very, very deep boom. It sounded like some damage. I thought maybe a garage had blown up.
The FBI and ATF trying to figure out what actually blew up and why, especially when these were experienced arson explosive deputies.
All these people had 20 plus years on. This is not an assignment that you get to your first day or your first year or your first 10 years. These these are some of our very best.
They're hurting.
County supervisors here for support. It seems 2 of the deputies may have also worked security at the Board of Supervisors.
I mean, it's just even more impactful because I never got to say thank you to them.
To say I'm heartbroken it doesn't feel strong enough.
We don't think about it every day. We just come to work, do our job, and like I said, when something like this happens, it's just a tragedy.
Tragic indeed. The veterans, all veterans, 19 years, one of them, 22 years in the force, another one, the other one, 33 years and about to retire. I'm Christina Gonzalez in East Los Angeles. Back to you in the studio.
All right, Christina, thank you so much. Someone who knows at least 2 of the deputies who lost their lives today is former LA County Sheriff Alex Villanueva. He's here on set. You talk about one of them has 4 kids that they're leaving behind.
Yes, each one is a tragic tale, and like the one that's just about to retire, you know, you think it's all said and done, your career is behind you, and then your family's left, you know, the vacuum, and that is how sudden this is and tragic this is.
And how small of a unit this was. The arson and explosives detail, you think it's about 20 members, and now 3 are gone?
Yes, that'll show you what the impact this is and their ability, again, as we said, about being able to continue, because these calls for them to go out to examine suspicious packages is every day they're doing this.
Yeah, and we're getting some confirmation that the LAPD now stepping in tonight to do that, because the Sheriff's Department is busy mourning and trying to figure out what happened here. So you've been so generous with your time over the course of tonight. I'm just curious, what's your main message for the people of LA County and our surrounding areas that are watching this and thinking about the department tonight?
Well, these 3 deputies died. They're heroes, and people should value, appreciate them.
Yeah. And what does that look like? What do you think is the best way to honor their memory and to pay respects in the days, weeks, and years ahead?
When you see a deputy out there in the field, say thank you. Plain and simple. Go up and say, hey, thank you for what you're doing. And when you have the opportunity to convince someone growing up that want to decide what to do with a career, think of a career in law enforcement. Think about returning, you know, giving something back to the community, and set an example for others to follow. And I think these 3 gentlemen did exactly that.
Because this is an instance, and again, I know that we don't know everything about what happened this morning, but this is an instance that you cannot guarantee won't happen again, yet people still choose to be a law enforcement officer.
That's exactly right. There's no guarantees in life, and working patrol, for example, and there's no routine anything in patrol, because basically, you know, it's a spin of the dial. You don't know who you're going to pull over. You don't know what that person did before you pulled them over, for example. In this case, like this, everything has a bit amount of peril and danger associated with it. And it's a line of work that is difficult, but it's extremely rewarding, because you get to help people. In their darkest hour, you get to make a difference.
Yeah, well, I know this is an emotional day for you. But having your insight here has been extremely valuable as we sort of all go through this mourning process together. And it means a lot that you came in, and I know I'm sure a lot of our viewers are grateful as well. Thank you so much, former LA County Sheriff Alex Villanueva.
You got it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Our
Let's check
coverage
in.
Continues now.
Yeah, with Laura Diaz. She's been working the angle from Santa Monica, where this is linked to. Let's pick up our coverage with Laura out there tonight. Laura?
Yes, we heard, of course, the former sheriff as well as the LA County Supervisor talking about the importance of where I'm standing right now, which is an apartment complex on Bay Street here in Santa Monica. Our photographer, Sam Dubin, the only one here at 1:30, when investigators arrived on the scene, they secured the area and began investigating the possible connection between evidence seized here yesterday and this morning's tragedy in LA.
We're securing another park goer. came back today, and it's obviously a full-blown crime scene.
That's a resident describing the investigation at 800 Bay Street in Santa Monica Friday afternoon. Fox 11 on the scene getting exclusive video showing Santa Monica police and LA County Sheriff's homicide investigators working behind police lines. According to multiple sources, the LA County Sheriff's bomb squad was called to this address Thursday after a construction crew discovered explosives in a locked garage storage unit.
I saw a lot of police officers here, and then my landlord had texted me saying that they found potential explosives while they were doing the construction on the EV chargers in the garage. To my knowledge, they said that it was innate grenades or like stunt grenades or something for practicing.
These photos obtained exclusively by Fox 11 from an LA County Sheriff's deputy source showing some of the explosives removed from the location on Bay Street. Investigators are looking into the possibility that the explosives seized here are connected to the tragedy occurring Friday when 3 members of the LA County Sheriff Arson Explosive Detail died while reportedly working this case at their main headquarters in LA.
It's pretty eerie, especially seeing the news from this morning and everything that happened. Yesterday I wasn't too concerned about it. Now it's a little unnerving for sure.
Friday afternoon, 1 block between Lincoln and 9th cordoned off, residents not being allowed in. ATF on the scene. Coming back here live right now, you can see that a lot of people have arrived here on the scene. We've got the yellow police tape up, and the LAPD bomb detail is here investigating, as well as we have Santa Monica police securing the perimeter. We have the sheriffs still here investigating, but a lot of people, residents who live here in the area, quite shocked to find out that what was taken here yesterday was linked to the tragedy that occurred in LA, some 22 miles away. We look at the scene here again. People do not know when they'll be allowed back into that apartment complex, but it was just a routine repair, if you will. They were just, the construction crew had gone into the underground parking, and we were told that they went into an area where people who live here are allowed to store items in a padlocked container, and when they were able to open that container, that's when those explosives fell out, and that's when sheriff's deputies were alerted to what had happened here. So all of this somewhat by happenstance, but after learning the horrible fate that was met by the detail in LA, of course, people who live in this apartment complex were wondering, were they just sleeping above what could have been a horrible, horrible tragedy for all the people who live in this apartment complex. They've not been told when they'll be allowed to go in. We talked to a gentleman earlier. You heard him in that tape piece earlier. He told us, Alex, that he was still walking around with his cat, Rick, not knowing when they'll be allowed to go back inside. I'm Laura Diaz reporting live from Santa Monica, sending it back to the studio.
So does that mean that they may not be able to go back in for days or weeks?
You know what, Marla? They haven't been told anything about when they'll be allowed to go back in. We only know that investigators remain on the scene right now, so I would imagine that they are just going over every single bit of that storage area to make sure that nothing else was left behind. I was told that it was a tenant, a former tenant, who left this behind. So I don't know how long it's been there. I've not been able to speak with the landlord myself. I've gotten my information from residents who spoke to their landlord and told me what he said.
And Laura, we just saw from that live picture from Sam Dubin, it looked like LAPD with bomb-sniffing dogs going into that garage. Can you talk about what you've been seeing from the LAPD, who are now there helping to handle this, and what you've been seeing, sort of the comings and goings in the last few hours?
Well, you know, actually, when Sam got here, and as I said earlier, he was the only one here when investigators from the Sheriff's Department first arrived. The LAPD bomb squad, I think, has been here for about 90 minutes or so, and then they took over one aspect of the investigation. Now, you've been talking about the fact that all of these departments are extremely close, so when one is injured, they all feel it. I actually do have this statement that came from the LAPD to me earlier. It said, "I am deeply saddened by the tragic loss of life that occurred this morning at the LA County Sheriff's Department Training Center. on behalf of the entire LAPD, I want to offer our heartfelt condolences to the families, friends, and colleagues of the fallen deputies. But all of these departments, they work very closely. In fact, it's not uncommon to find that a spouse works for one department, another spouse works for another. We saw, like with Charlie Beck, where all of his children work for the department. It is sort of a legacy of service. People talk about the heart to serve, and these are young people who are raised in families where they think the ultimate thing they can give to the community they love is to serve that community, whether it's in the sheriff's department or the police department or with the fire department. All of these families are raised with the idea, with the concept that you serve the community in which you live, that there is no greater thing you can give. And I know all of you have worked in the media as long as I have, and what we've seen time and time again is this selfless effort to try to contribute back, and we owe them all such a debt for what they do for us. And tragically, we see that they paid the ultimate price today.
We did. Law enforcement passed down generational. That is a very true statement. All right, Laura Diaz, thank you so much for your reporting. Let's bring in Hal Kempfer. He is a national global security expert, homeland security expert, talking specifically about the explosives that were picked up in Santa Monica and the fact that this whole area is now under investigation. How long do you think it's going to take to deem this area safe?
Marla, I think what they're doing is they're reevaluating what they found. You know, initially when they go in there, they find some explosives. And it was interesting, someone points out they thought that they might have been, which is very common when people come across real things like real grenades. They think, oh, that must be some sort of fake grenades or training grenades or stunt grenades. Of course, here in, being Los Angeles, that would be a common thing. But in this case, M213 fuses, those go to real grenades. Those aren't something you see with a fake grenade, and that would probably go to a real grenade, an M67, which is a current grenade. There was also reports of pineapple grenades, and when you talk about pineapple grenades, now you start to evoke memories of World War II. You know, the famous movies where they have the thing that looks like a pineapple. That's a Mark II grenade. Those are pretty much they've been out of service for a long time. I think the Navy had them in inventory up to the late 60s, but that was it. However, because of the scope and size of World War II and everything going on back then, a number of those had managed to make their way out. And it's not impossible that some of those really old, Mark II pineapple grenades could have been in that collection of whatever they found there. And that's particularly concerning because older ordnance like that tends to be a little more unstable. And so that could be something they're going to try and track down to see maybe there was some really old ordnance that they thought had rendered safe, but basically the chemical composition within it was more unstable than they had initially assessed. They're going to be tracking all of this stuff down to figure out what's going on there. But now they're looking at this apartment complex. I don't know. I would certainly want to look at more spaces. I would want to look at every storage space. I'd probably start looking everywhere in the building because if that resident was there for a long time, who knows what he or she may have stored in other places around that property.
And Hal, earlier you talked about the fact that this should not be stored anywhere, that this is it's like classified documents. You should not have this stored with you.
Oh, absolutely. This is military ordnance. They should not have this. I absolutely should not have explosive devices or anything like that. Shouldn't have any military ordnance of any type. So that is wrong. That is a violation of the law to have that stuff. There are procedures, where you can fill out a lot of forms and you go through a process whereby, for example, you could, if you were in World War II, there were some cases where people brought back their M1 Garand weapons and they had filled out forms and they were able to keep something like that. That was not a weapon that was illegal. It was a weapon that was legal in civilian society. There really isn't any situation where a hand grenade is lawful in civilian society, period. And there's a lot of weapons that the military have that they have no application in civil society at all. There's nothing. So now you'll find people that will have weapons that look like weapons, and there are civilianized version of assault rifles and pistols and stuff that are used in the military. But this is not that. These are military explosives. There is no reason that anybody should have this, and they pose a tremendous threat. In fact, a weapon or weapons like this, when they find it with terrorists and things, they will sometimes file charges as a weapon of mass destruction, just to give you an idea of how serious these weapons are.
Hal Kempfer, always appreciate your insight. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Hal.
All right. Thanks, Marla. Thanks, Alex.
Coming, we're going to sneak in a quick commercial break for the first time in almost 2 hours, but we are going to have more continuous coverage of this, plus a big story tonight, which is the weather.
Yeah, we're tracking some thunderstorms with the potential to drop a whole lot of rain. Adam Kruger, our meteorologist, he's standing by to fill us in as we take you live from atop Mount Wilson. We'll see you in just a couple of minutes.
Each week, you will compete to become the snake.
All new Tuesdays on Fox.
The Kia K4 and K5 represent what comes next. The next movement for innovation. And the next movement for acceleration. The Kia K